which we don't have a lot of information, but it's going to have, it was something that we're going to consider in the future. Right now, if you go north on Milwaukee, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, go north on Milwaukee, you can turn, and you're coming south, you can turn into the commercial area here at Panera Bread, and you can turn in on the north end. No, we're up here. Yeah, we're up here. You can turn left going into, there's a Korean restaurant there. I don't know the name of it. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. The county, as part of the Woodman's Milwaukee Road project, is putting in a hard curb that will separate the north and southbound lanes on Milwaukee. North and Deerfield.
To be clear on the guilty parties, it's Woodman's putting in that median and the state's required.
State road. It's a state road. Right. So what it did is that if you're coming down Milwaukee, coming south, and you want to turn into that anywhere in any of the commercial establishments, you can't. Because there's going to be a concrete curb and you can't get over it. Now, we do know that the curb at the Panera Bread is definitely going to be concrete. The question is, if you go further north, would the state allow a traffic light so people can get in and out? As of right now, it's unknown. Probably not, but it's unknown. In addition, if you want to get out of that establishment, anywhere in those establishments, you're in a right out and right in. So what that means, that if you're either here or further north, and you want to get out and go south on Milwaukee, you can't, because there's a curb there. So you can only get out going to the right, right out.
Going north.
If you want, going north. If you want to get into that establishment and you're coming south on Milwaukee, you can't get in there. You have to come to Deerfield Road, and if you get to here, to Deerfield Road, and if you remember now, you have to cross over 4 lanes. Make a left-hand turn over 4 lanes. I don't think that's possible. All right? So now you're in a situation where you're right in and right out only, and those two centers have a problem. And because they have a problem, we have a problem. That's our major tax base. So we've been trying to figure out how to deal with that. One of the ways of dealing with it is here. Federal Life, the Cube Smart, this little access road which the village owns. We kept it as an emergency access road that might allow traffic to this potentially buildable area here. And if you remember, the talk of putting in engineering for the traffic light that may come in the future. So the question was, is there a way to get access to the commercial area by left turn as well as a right turn? And the thinking was that if you make this a lighted signal light, you could come into Deerfield, make a left-hand turn, come up this way, and get in here. If you wanted to get out, you could also come out this way and then go south on Milwaukee. It's not perfect, and we don't own that land. But there are interests in the sense that if the commercial area wants to remain viable, they got to figure out how to do that. Federal Life has an interest in it. It's their land, and we have an interest in it. There is nothing more than an idea that this may be able to be done. There's nothing solid yet, but it's a problem. It's not a problem for us except an indirect one in the sense that if the 2 large commercial establishments die because you can't access it, it affects us indirectly. And we certainly wouldn't want that.
How can a little bit of concrete cause so much trouble? Because people are just gonna turn right to Woodman's and then go around through their parking lot and come down Deerfield Parkway and go in there. It's just gonna have a lot of people driving where they don't wanna go, so they get where they have to go.
So in other parts of the country that I've been in, I've noticed, when they create situations like this, let's say if you wanted to go south on Milwaukee out of there, you have to go right, but they actually create a U-turn lane going down the road so they can turn around and come back and go south. Now, it's not going to help making a left if you're going south, but at least cars can go a short distance, make a U-turn and come back on the south on Milwaukee.
So like on
North of the
Right.
So like on 41, if you come to Park and you want to go to Target, you can make a U-turn to go back into Target.
One of the concerns, as I understand it, Pat can correct me, is that you can't put two signal lights too close together. And so that was also a question, is whether or not the signal light at the north end of the commercial development might be too close to the Milwaukee signal light. But the idea of a U-turn, we'll ask. It's not, it's a little bit outside our purview, but it helps us if it keeps the commercial area viable.
No, it's more than a tax base. If people can't come in there and businesses go out of business, we're gonna have slumps. We're gonna have empty lots just sitting there at our entryway to our village.
We're acutely aware of it, which is why we've already started to look at different planning, different ways of TIF districts and things like that.
Have they listed a roundabout there?
Again, this is the state and Woodlands. We are very peripherally, we have very little control over this. And to a great extent, it depends on the owner of those properties to make this thing. It's their property, their major interest, and if they aren't complaining about it and taking action, it's very difficult for us to do that. They're aware of it. How aware and what they're planning on doing, I can't tell you. I bring it up because it's an unresolved issue that has an indirect effect on us. We're doing what we can to potentially resolve the problem for them and for ourselves.
Do we know if there's access to Woodlands off of Milwaukee?
Should be. There's a right turn lane in there.
It seems like,
You see it here?
yeah, it seems like
Right there.
a logical thing to do would be to make a light and a break for Woodman's on Milwaukee to line up with that driveway by the shopping center.
They're aware of that. It's been asked of them. One of the reasons I was told is because the light would be too close to Milwaukee. There may be other reasons, and it's a state project, not a county project.
You can already turn on the Deerfield Parkway and get in there that way, too.
You mean, yeah, go west.
Well,
So I bring it up to make you aware of it. I don't have answers, but we're trying to figure out what we can do to fix it. And again, it's limited.
Have you talked to our state representatives as well as you're doing this, so that if this is a state issue, then we should be talking to our state reps to say, we have a concern, what can you do to help us?
Help me out, Pat.
Well, I don't know how helpful I'll be. The Woodman's road work, permits have been issued. I've seen Julie tickets come through. That work's starting in a couple of weeks. That portion is well out of the barn. There'll be additional work that the county does, in 2022 or whenever they do their project to further expand the intersection. But Woodman's and the associated improvements are happening. The village, other than a very close review of the stormwater, because portions of the road are in Riverwoods, that was the sum total of influence that the village of Riverwoods had over any of those improvements that are proposed as part of Woodman's. But it's past the point where a change can be made, that those construction contracts have been let.
And as far as your question about contacting other local officials, yes, is what I can tell you is we have spoken with our senators, our representatives, etc. They know as well as we do It's a problem. If you cut off all of the access there, we will lose revenue and end up with an eyesore. We have tried and have had meetings with the property owners. They are not as anxious as some property owners might be to work with us and to seek our assistance.
Although
Let me word it that way, but-
the owners of the shops at Riverwoods and Colonial Court, they did, I saw that they had a plan prepared to at least at the most northerly access of shops at Riverwoods, where right now it's a right in, right out by the restaurant up there. I believe they have already submitted that plan to the state, asking to modify that one at least to a full access where you can turn left out. So they're a little bit late to the dance, but they are coming up to speed with trying to make some improvements to live with what's proposed here.
If we get more information,
Well, nothing's impossible. It doesn't mean, I've seen it elsewhere. Mariano's came and, they drove a dump truck full of money up to the state and said, we'll pay for all sorts of road work and give us our signal, and they got it. I don't see that happening here. Certainly, neither the state nor Woodman's nor the county is going to pay for a signal to benefit this shopping center. There'd have to be somebody at the property owner's side that really comes forward with an awful lot to make that signal happen.
And we have contacted and are working on finding various ways from tax increment financing districts to other vehicles that are available to help us with commercial development throughout this. But a great deal of that, again, depends on what the property owners want and are willing to do as well, and that's been limiting us to some extent. I will say, I don't know that we should dwell too long on this tonight, because it is a problem we're aware of. Frankly, we're probably going to just have to do something on our side of the road, is what it comes down to, okay? Quite simply, I don't think that the state is likely to deviate too much from this control. You need only look at Waukegan and Lake Cook Road to see what we're talking about. If you look at that corner, you've got those medians and people can't get into any of the shopping centers or whatever that were there. They have to go down to McDonald's to turn around or way down in the other direction.
if we get information on this, and as we get it, as I mentioned, we'll put it in the Village Voice and we'll put it on the new Village website. Keep you as up to date as we are. There's no reason for us to keep it quiet. Again, it's sort of like the trees and the fencing. We know it's a problem. We're trying to figure out what we can do about it. It isn't one over which we have a lot of control.
So you said at the beginning that this is sort of set in stone, this intersection, or they're going to set in stone this year?
This summer, we should know exactly what's going to happen, but we're pretty 98% sure that this intersection is the way
So
it is.
Woodman's isn't open yet. Are they going to reevaluate after it's been open for a year to figure out whether this is actually the solution or whether they have a different problem they need to solve? Like next year, look at it and go,
I would imagine if something unusual happens with Woodman, they may reevaluate it. But what I was
something
told,
big is going to happen.
what I was told is that this isn't going to happen, this intersection isn't going to happen until the Deerfield Road project starts.
No, I didn't say get it done. I just said don't set the plan in stone if you have a big variable that's about to come in.
You might tell them that, but my understanding is this summer they're going to come in with a plan.
Well,
Things change, I don't imagine it
I can't
can.
answer some of this question. I think
there will be, when Woodman's is done, there'll be new traffic counts performed at the when Woodman's is up and running. I mean, not the day the construction's done. But once Woodman's gets into its, what's assumed to be its regular traffic pattern, because they got to come out, they have to put the final timing on the signals, they'll get all those traffic counts, and if it's vastly different from the projections that have been taken into account for the Deerfield Road project, that work will get done this year, and certainly the county will take that into account before they finalize their phase one at the beginning of 2019.
Speed limits. We guess the county will keep the speed limit at it where it is or less. They said two things. One, they agree that the speed limits should be restricted and would like to see it no more than where it is, and they would also like to see it reduced, but they do studies after the road is completed. They then do traffic studies and make a determination on the speed limit. So no decision on the speed limit is done until the road is completed and traffic is flowing. So there wasn't anything we can do until then. And I don't have anything else. Does anybody have any questions on something that I didn't talk about or still confused?
It just, so you clarify to me, when you say like a 3-lane road, so let's say currently Deerfield Road, is that a 2-lane road, is that how you define it?
Currently, it's a 2-lane road. The new 2-lane road, if they were to put in a 2-lane road, would be 1 foot narrower than a new 3-lane road. But it would be significantly wider than our present 2-lane road.
So when you say 3-lane road, there's still gonna be one going east, one going west?
West with a center turn lane
Center turn lane.
and emergency.
It's just a third lane.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got a lot of, you've got a diagram of the west side of Deerfield, what about east side? Was that it? Do you guys have something?
No, the county hasn't come forward with the, the particular lane configuration, it's really just the other pictures where we just have that one cross section that's presumed to be all the way through, and it'll be a little bit wider at Portland Road.
So from point one to Saunders, we have no idea where it's going to be.
No, it'll be it's the same 3-lane section all the way.
Because you get east, there's an area there where there's 4 lanes. Will that longevity of the 4-lane road be exactly the same?
That we don't know. They have not
It's
done that.
conceivable
yet.
if it goes as far west as they want to make it?
Well, technically, it's their road, but they just,
That's-
they have not advanced the design.
We have no idea.
I don't think we can.
Well, it does go 4 lanes for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to ascertain,
Yes.
whether any comfort level can be received, that it'll stay the same way.
You mean, especially lane widths, because if they
Yeah.
go to the new standard.
Exactly.
I think he's asking if they can extend the 4 lanes all the way to Portland.
I'm not sure.
Right, isn't it?
How much further west will we,
We just, they've not brought that forward.
well, that seems like a fairly important point, when you guys are getting on.
We'll get out.
What do you think? What do you mean get out?
Well, I'm saying, to get a good sense, because again, there's a lot west, but really nothing east.
They showed us only up until there, east on Deerfield,
Which
which
is
is
the-
not very far, just beyond the Brentwood Road
That's the
area.
consolidations with.
We don't have any drawings or projections east, on the East
East
Deerfield
of the
Road.
port line?
No,
East of the river.
east of the river.
Oh.
But everything they've said seems to indicate that it's going to remain a 3-lane road and not a 4-lane road. I don't know what would change, because we're not expecting the traffic to change on Port Wine or Saunders. Anything that would change would be up in Milwaukee. And you already have, what is it, 23, 24 lanes there. I don't know how much they could make it any bigger. So I don't think that's a reasonable concern at this point.
The road itself is only projected for 3 lanes. The intersections, I guess, are not as certain, but frankly, they're going to stay much like they are. For example, westbound Deerfield, as you cross Saunders, is 4 lanes right now with a turn lane for a right turn on the going north from the westbound traffic. But it's 4 lanes as you cross. I don't know exactly how they're going to change from the 4 lanes to the 3 lanes, but the 3 lanes is what they intend to be from approximately Big Oak, which is where it is right now, down.
We don't have the
They
eastern
haven't
section.
done full engineering.
Probably before June. When I spoke to them, they're working on it now. We don't have that yet. But we didn't want to wait because there's always going to be something further down the road.
Is it typically going to be even on the north and the south side of Deerfield Road?
Probably not.
What do they anticipate?
But I don't know.
taking?
The only thing I know on the taking, I know 2 things on the taking. We were told it's minimal. You can define minimal, but minimal effect on the residents, private residential areas. And there's no taking at the land preservation area on that northwest corner at Port Wine. Those are the only two things that we were told. They said they were able to get the 3-lane road in pretty much within the right-of-way and what they have available to them now, and they wouldn't need to take much land. Now, what the county says of not taking much land, and what you consider as being not much
We don't
land,
know what much means, much.
right, we don't know that, but we'll know it in June or July.
But the
Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's gonna be very lopsided, whichever side the path goes on, they're gonna require more right of way than the other side of the road. So it certainly won't be consistent through the corridor.
I just want to clarify my previous question. So by this summer, we have a better sense of what's going on. What picture you think? Sort of from Saunders to Milwaukee?
Yeah, they'll be, the county will host another public meeting in late summer, early fall, where I would expect that they'll show the whole design for the entire road.
We spoke to them today and they confirmed that they expect to have the whole thing laid out by then.
So was your comment about the 8-foot path? I live on Big Oak, so it's very concerning to me. Is the 8-foot path between Saunders and Big Oak going to take the land of those owners, or is the road going to be evenly distributed? So that it takes,
We've not seen, again, any design east of Port Wine. I'm just, to answer the question, is the right-of-way requirement the same on, up and down the corridor? It's not, but we've not seen any proposed right-of-way acquisition east of the river.
Other than the metal lake development, so if I get out of Deerfield Road, am I still gonna be able to go east and west on that development?
I don't know any reason why not. I don't think that's gonna change. I know there's not gonna be a signal light there, but otherwise it shouldn't change.
They're not gonna build a median across.
Not that we know of. And it may be easier to get in and out because the way they've looked at the traffic, there should be, I don't know what the term is, but there should be greater frequency in empty space between two cars, not only in the frequency, but in the length of time.
It won't back up from Milwaukee the same way, because that's where it plugs, and then you just have that solid line of cars. So theoretically, there will be a gap between the stop caused by the stoplight at Port Wine with the traffic that has flowed through. That's the theory. And as far as the taking, remember, they have to pay for land they take. If they've already figured 3 lanes will get them what they need, 4 lanes or wider costs more, they're just as happy not to spend the money here because they got other places to spend it. So take that as a little comfort. If it's your land, I recognize it's a very little comfort, but recognize that that's part of what's driving their projection. They want to do it as cheaply as they can too, obviously.
Do we have any idea of measurement of the center line, what the road would be, including the walking path? We just have a rough idea. It could be like 20, 30 feet approximately.
I think for most of the corridor east of the river, everything should probably fit within 50 feet from the middle of the existing road.
So including the walking path? So if I went out to the center of the road, should it take towards my property?
That's
I might
dangerous.
have a rough idea if I know.
Yeah. I mean, again, when they get into the science of design, things we need to move.
Just a
to
rough
and such.
idea.
But yeah, to get a general sense,
Can you add their
50
numbers?
feet's pretty good.
Pardon?
Can you add their numbers on the screen?
80
Can I add the numbers?
Yeah, because it, down there, it gives the widths of the existing, what
It's
they.
right on the top, it says 80 feet varies.
In there?
Yeah, see, look on the lower alternative 3-lane urban gutters, that gives dimensions on it.
Yeah, and in places that we still have a ditch with the.
So the 20-foot lanes to the center of the curve. There you go. So it's 38 feet from the center line to the edge of the right of
Does
way.
that help?
The sidewalk is gone, right?
All of that is within the right of way.
Sidewalk is gone.
38 feet to be the center of the lane. Now, That's okay. Where's the center of the lane gonna be at any particular property? That's what the engineering is going to see. So it gives you some idea, but again, it doesn't tell you specifically where you are now.
So it looks like it's 44 feet from the center of the lane to the end of the multi-use path when it's on that side.
And it would be
What they
less
show on the
than-
left side is 50 feet in areas where there's offsite tributaries, so they need the ditch as well. So what the county's trying to say with this typical section is that at most 50 feet from the middle of the road is what they need, so it's
What's the width of our paved road right now?
the paved road. I think it's, probably, maybe 24 feet.
Altogether? So, and this will be the paved area, and then the multi-class will be 46.
Well, there's,
Nine, the walls.
this would be 40 feet from face curb to face curb.
So then there's three sides to it.
Actually, and we should mention, this document and all the county's information is on their website. It's deerfieldroadcorridor.com. You can get all the information that the county's brought forward.
We stole this.
And remember that when you look at the road now, there are culverts on the side that will be in essence paved over. So even though it's wider, the total open space won't be as wide, but it won't be green. Part of that is then to try and not go any farther out, because if we didn't have curb and gutter, then they would be an additional 8 feet or more on the sides for those culverts, which goes even farther into everybody's property.
You know, if you're in an area where the multi-use path is not located, and you're not in an area where there's a ditch, you're talking 25 feet. Right?
From the middle?
From the middle.
Yeah.
No, well, there's.
If you're in that area,
There's no place in the corridor where today is less than a 33-foot right of way.
according to that, it would be a 20-foot road plus a 5-foot shoulder.
But to the right of way.
Right to the right, yeah.
But if you go to the RW, you're gonna, on that.
But I don't know how many are going to fall into that category. You have to be on the right side of the road, which it doesn't have a multi-use path, and you don't have a shoulder, or a ditch, I mean.
So when it comes time for construction, fix the timing at half day in Lake Cook so that Riverwoods Road and Center don't back up in front of it? And could that be part of it?
I don't know that we have any control over
We're
it.
lobbying for that, obviously, because we all drive here too. We all have the same issue. But we all notice that they seem to do many wise things, like build a new bridge over the Des Plaines River to have to replace it within about 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Somehow they don't seem to think these things through, but yeah, we want to try to get as much of this timed out across.
In fact, I think last year, maybe Pat will correct me, the EPA, or the construction said that any new construction in the country that was at federal funding had to take into account the possibility of increased flooding and climate change, so that the roadways had to be built up higher or constructed to take that into account, and that was now removed this year. And so I don't know how that affects the bridge.
What I meant was timing of the lights.
I know,
But a timing construction would be important thing, because we don't want to do all the roads at the same
Right.
time, too.
Did you have anything to say on the drainage?
I did earlier on, I made it on place. The drainage, again, just real quickly, they said that the drainage issues would be no worse. They would try to make them better, but they promised not to make it worse. They did not promise to improve it. We've talked to them at length about it. We talked about the 3 locations of the pond. If they can't get any retention pond, that they would increase it underground. Well aware of the problems here, and the idea that there may need to be a ditch along the north side of Deerfield Road in certain sections for the water, because the land is flat and low. We don't know exactly where that is. We'll know it hopefully this summer. But it's unanswered yet.
Yeah, our drainage all comes from the north throughout this portion of the village. So what they're saying is, if this roadway goes in and can't handle everything that's coming from the north, it may be necessary to build some type of flood or water control issue. So again, we should be as good as, and hopefully we may actually be a little better. I know nobody in Riverwoods ever has any standing water in their yards, right? That is always, just so you know, I'll give you an aside, the standing water and flood is the greatest concern amongst Riverwoods residents. I'm sure that doesn't surprise any of you. You live in a village that probably should have been named River Swamp. But the good news is, it's that wet ground that gives you the beautiful woodland.
I just want to say thank you to you, the other members of the board, for spending so much time on this for the benefit of the village and all of us sitting here.
Let's just hope you feel that way once they build one.
The intersection of Saunders
Yeah.
is Riverwood Road, whatever you're gonna call it, though. Is that out of scope? Is it
No.
only Deerfield Road?
No,
Can
no.
they put right turn lanes in
They're
off
putting-
of south?
The question was, what are they gonna do at Saunders and Deerfield Road? The only thing I know now is the plan is to put a right turn only, let's put an additional right turn lane on Sanders going north to turn onto East Deerfield, near the gas station.
How about opposite, southbound?
Don't have that information yet, that's part of the east section.
The only change they're proposing right now at that intersection is the northbound to eastbound right now.
Not southbound.
Right, so there'd be the multi-use path and some signal improvements there, no additional lanes.
When I asked about right turn lanes, they said to me that you need a significantly higher traffic need to put in right turn lanes because it takes the land.
Which we don't have.
And because I asked them at Port Wine if they're going to be doing it, and they said it was very unlikely.
Yeah, the one at Port Wine, going northbound in Port Wine to turn right eastbound. You said they were putting a left turn.
Correct? I asked specifically if they're going to put a right turn.
A center and left together, and then just a dedicated right instead.
They will not put a right turn lane. I asked them
There's
that.
not that much oncoming traffic.
I lived near there. I wanted a right turn lane. They said no. And that was the reason. They said that the need wasn't there and it's a significant taking of land. The left turn lane, I guess they felt that there was, left turn lanes improve the traffic much more than right turn lanes do. And they do. Because right turn, you can do the right turn on a red. Unless someone has more questions before the snow hits. Thank you.
You can always call during the week, so, or come to our board meeting.